Hi there. I like to tell you a story. It's called The Story of Esther. And probably do need my name to get this started. My name's Anthony Cirillo, and I work in the healthcare business and in particularly in aging. But I got there through a journey, and I like to tell you quickly. So I am a Philadelphia native and was working in hospitals and also a gigging musician full time at night. And when I got out of that, I started going into assisted living and nursing homes and singing for folks. And it changed the trajectory of my healthcare life. And so when we came down to the Charlotte, North Carolina area 22 years ago, I started doing some singing locally and up in as far as Hickory and down to Spartanburg. And I met Esther, and I call her my designated heckler because I have strange programs every month. Like in November, everything has a theme, and sometimes it's obvious, like you're going to do patriotic songs on Veterans Day or something like that. But though in November, I do Pennies from Heaven. And, Esther would look at me strange, like, what the heck does this have anything to do with November? I said, well, come on, Esther. It's National Accountants Day in November. So we became fast friends over time. And one day after I was done a performance, she asked the activity director to have me come to the hospital and visit her. Well, that came out of left field, but I went because, Esther and I were kind of buddies by then. And so she said, on the way over, she goes, yeah, by the way, Esther died and was revived. She's in the coronary care unit. She wants you. I said, okay. So we got to the hospital and Esther's there. Her daughter's there. And Esther's flirting with me, much to the embarrassment of her daughter. To say, Mom, he's a married man. Esther wanted me to sing to her, but she wanted a particular song. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Beautiful song, right? One problem, I didn't know it. And I told her, Esther, I'm from Philadelphia. We do, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, the Great American Songbook. I said, I come down the stairs every day, from upstairs in South Philly. And, when I was a kid and, we had a picture of the Lord on one wall. And we had a picture of Frank Sinatra on the other. And we bowed to Frank every day. So anyway, I sang Unforgettable because that's what she was. But I said, I'm going to learn that song for you, Esther. And I did. And I put it on a little CD, 3.5-minute song, one CD, sent it to the assisted living in Hickory. And she was back there. And so I thought all was good with the world. And then the activity director let me know that she was in hospice a few weeks later. And then a few weeks later, she had passed. And I don't normally go to the funerals of residents who I sing for because that's the thing that can keep you quite busy, right? But I went to Esther's funeral. And on the program, of course, the song was Because He Lives. But before the program started, the daughter came up to me and she started crying. And they had said that she had not cried at all until she saw me. And so she came up to me, hugged me. She said, did you hear about my mother's last day of life? I said, no. I said, well, on her last day, we played your CD over and over again until finally I knelt down next to Mom and I started singing with her and telling her to let go. And Mom died that day. And so that's my story of Esther, because here's the thing. There's a lot of times just from being a capitalist, profitable enterprise, I could have stayed in the hospital field and made a lot more money. But every time I try to pull away from it, like with what I'm doing now with music, I can't because, I have a card from Esther sitting on my desk here and a picture of Esther somewhere close by as well. And Esther's been gone a lot of years. And I still converse with her daughter and granddaughter on Facebook. So if you're looking for purpose in life, including a caregiving, which is a purpose, that's how I found mine. I didn't get into the aging space necessarily because my mother had a situation that came much later. I got into it and cemented it because of Esther.
Oh, it's a beautiful story. So hello, everyone. I'm Gina.
And I'm Don with Focused Healthy Family. And this is podcast number 98. And today we're talking with Anthony Cirillo. Well, Anthony, that was a wonderful, very inspiring story too. You know, that the care that you gave, you know, just to one person, but I think through your music, you've given it to much more than that. But you have Sagestream, which is the business that you own, which is a live stream entertainment, I'd say a program for aging facilities, nursing facilities, things like that. Tell us a little bit more about that, if you would.
Sure. So essentially during COVID, and it wasn't because of COVID, it's because I got fiber optics in my neighborhood and was able to stream. I thought, well, this would be great. I'll start streaming to nursing homes and assisted living because, you know, why drive to Hickory when I could beam in? Well, I was, didn't really know what I didn't know, didn't have the right equipment, didn't realize how much little equipment, you know, they had on the other end of the equation. But during COVID, obviously, a lot of that changed and people were embracing that kind of thing. And so I got a student from Northeastern University in Boston, their experiential learning program, and we did a whole bunch of discovery and found that people were very interested in this, to the point that 3 weeks after we just got the student, we had endorsers just on a concept and had a major proposal that we weren't prepared to actually answer. Fast forward, I've been through several business accelerators, the latest of which I'm going to be in the AARP Age Tech Collaborative, which is an amazing program starting in January to really bring this idea to fruition. So what it is in a nutshell, it's pretty straightforward. It's a live stream, real time, interactive music network for older adults. Emphasis on the live and the interactive. And I know we could talk more about that, but like right before we recorded this, I had a program and it was live. So there were people who were chatting with us from around the world, and I was relaying messages to our artist, and she would acknowledge, you know, whatever it might be. It could be a birthday, could be a song request, whatever it is. So that's the essence of it. But you know, there's reasons why I started it. Because of social isolation is a huge issue in our society. I don't think there's a week that goes by when there's not an article on social isolation out there. So I believe that, you know, we're tackling that. We know that I offended somebody in skilled nursing because when I was talking to her about Sagestream, I said, yeah, you know, the senior living space is in chaos. They took offense with the chaos word, but it is. From budgets to staffing. So this is a way for people to get 8 live performances a month, plus an archive, plus a rebroadcast for less than they pay for one entertainer. And our roster is amazing. But I'll leave it there, and you can ask me about some of that stuff as we peel the layers off. But that's essentially what it is. It's taking almost 3 years to bring it full circle. I had to revamp what was a recording studio in my home into a streaming studio because I needed to know what I needed to know in terms of equipment and things like that, and I needed a bunch of mentors. There's great resources, by the way, in our area in Charlotte and Huntersville and Davidson. The Hurt Hub is a incubator that businesses can go through, and I have a mentor from a program called Launch Charlotte. So anyway. That is what it is in a nutshell. Live, interactive music from artists from around the world.
Anthony, it's so wonderful to talk to you. Don, I guess, met you recently and told me about what you do. And I don't know if he told you, but I'm an occupational therapist and I've worked in healthcare for 30 years and mostly in adult geriatric rehab and currently in different nursing facilities and assisted living. And the power of music, for one, for healing, it connects a different area of the brain. People who can't talk sometimes can sing. And yeah, I lived through COVID and the isolation that was exacerbated, you know, by that illness and the restrictions at facilities. And I know I worked somewhere they regularly had entertainers coming in, and all that came to a dead halt. And yet, yeah, the cost of it. And you were right. Geriatric facilities are in chaos. I will agree 100% with you, because in part the baby boomer population is growing, that there's the need. And staffing is a serious issue. COVID made it even worse with less people. People decide to work from home instead of having jobs where they go to. So I
Yes.
just doing is amazing and wonderful, and I'm eager to to hear more about it.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
Gina, if you remember, what kind of kicked my mind into uh, asking Anthony to come on was what you did with your dad with the I'll call it a boom box, but tell a little, just tell him a little bit about what you did.
So my dad was in the hospital the third time for this year. It turned out he had COVID. He was just weak and couldn't stand up. And amazingly, him and my mom had not had COVID before. So he's in the hospital. He's got to be there for 10 days before he can go to rehab. And, you know, playing around, there's certain channels he likes on TV, but because of his Parkinson's dementia, he hallucinates and has delusions. So we got to be careful with what we turn on TV. We can't have the news on and we can't have other things.
Mm.
But my dad loves music. And the one day I was there, I played some 50s music on my phone. And I'm like, when I'm not here, like my dad doesn't have a smartphone, how are we going to play music? And I'm like, the old fashioned way. And I asked like, does anybody have like an old small radio, you know? And then I realized having the CD player would make a difference. And so my son amazingly works at Best Buy. So he hooked me up with one. I picked it up. My mom had tons of CDs and we brought some 50s music, John Denver, and there's a relaxation CD that my mom typically, when he's at home, plays for him at night that helps him because he gets a lot more anxious in the afternoon and evening. And so I brought it in and first, well, I think I asked him what he wanted and we put on some John Denver. And well, the day before when I used my phone, we were singing along to different 50s songs. So it was a great way to occupy his mind, you
Yep.
know, talk about things because he's got some good long-term memory and just realizing, you know, the power of music. And you know, I know this professionally, and sometimes it's a whole different layer, helping my dad navigate this journey and just, you know, realizing, oh yeah, my dad likes music and this can be very helpful.
Yeah, and
And I,
that's part of the reason, you know, from the caregiver standpoint, because there are different angles. You know, why you're doing this for communities and why you're doing it for individual subscribers, but for the caregivers, family caregivers, not paid. We can get into that, but I think family caregivers, there's two things. First, if you know you have a couple extra hours to yourself, you can set up mom or dad, and they can watch something and enjoy it, and even maybe participate in it. Awesome. Or it could be a shared activity.
Mhm.
Today we had an interesting program. An opera singer, but she did opera the last time she was on. She has learned something else with music bowls. So you actually use these little stir type things,
Mm,
and they generate sounds. It's
mm,
very meditative, and it's
Mhm.
all in like C major. And so while she's doing this, she's singing Christmas songs with it. It's like totally transformative. So, you know, again, these are, you know, types of shared activities that you can do. I'm really trying to, you know, just Don knows this from the meetings we go to. There's a lot of home care agencies. I mean, it's kind of interesting, and I'm not trying to play off of them, but I'm saying one of you need to get Sagestream because then you have something that an aide could do. Because my mother used to complain notoriously when we had an aide for her that they sit around and do nothing. So why don't you do something? And then the aide could chat with us saying, hey, she would like this or that. And then, or it's her birthday today. Can you sing happy birthday? So there's a definite caregiver benefit, but there's also, see, a lot of music solutions that are out there. They're more music therapy. And I don't try to couch us as music therapy. Today was definitely music therapy. And I have other artists that bring in elements of that. But I'm pretty clear on what we are. We're in entertainment. But if you're sitting in a community room and are listening together and can compare notes like, you know, why did you request that song? Well, here's the meaning it had for me. Or you're all singing along. That's a different experience. A lot of solutions out there, which are more definitely music therapy, like it kind of all started with this music and memory program that Dan Cohen brought to the market. And Oliver Sacks has a great video on this. And Oliver Sacks is actually the co-founder of a board that I'm on called the Institute for Music and Neurologic Function out of New York. But they put the headphones on the gentleman, and then it was an iPod, and he came to life and he sang the whole program. But then when the program was over, he was still lucid for I don't know how long. But he talked about the music he liked and why he liked it and all these types of things. A lot of the solutions are kind of individual based. They've taken that music and memory, but maybe put some algorithms around it so that they know the exact music to play for the exact individual at dinner or at bedtime. That's not us. Essentially, some of our key differentiators that really cropped up out of nowhere is our repertoire, our artists, the breadth and depth of our artists, and I can tell you more about that too. So,
well, it was interesting. I was looking up. I sent you this article. It's from Levine Music.
Yep.
.com or whatever. In one part of it, it says adults with memory disorders let's see, we can work with adults with memory disorders to encourage socialization and reality orientation while also supporting their caregivers in stress relief and self-care. I love that reality orientation because that it kind of brings them back to
yeah.
gives them wakes them up for that little bit of time,
Connection to the world, if they grew up in the 50s, pulling up 50s music, the shared interest. Yeah, it definitely connects them to their fellow. I love that you bring this into communities and just the interaction that can happen with residents that you might not otherwise see just over the shared memory of the music.
Yeah, I mean, I like to bill it as, when I go in, I grew up on Frank Sinatra and all that, and I do the Great American Songbook. But if you look at, I also gig locally at brew pubs, and my repertoire is crazy wild. And if you look at some of the artists on Sagestream, yeah, we have classical musicians, we have opera singers, but I also have the guitar player for Cher on my roster, and he also played for Lionel Richie for 22 years. So he ended his program with playing Hotel California because he also tours with Don Felder, the original Eagle, who invented that guitar ride and taught it to him personally. So I like to think that we're bringing the soundtrack of the lives of the people who are aging into these communities, right? The music, I always joke that, you're going to be singing Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen in these places, not, I did it my way, because things are changing. I mean, and I've been singing in these places since 1992. So it's been a long time. And, it's an interesting transformation. The other thing is that, the artists we have are otherwise, as I say, unavailable and unaffordable to most people. So, and they're in I guess I'll talk about a little bit about them, but they're in a variety. So I do have Ben Morrow, the good card player for Cher. They're not all superstar level, but I have, so anybody in our demographic watches Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune probably. So if you watch the commercials, you're going to run into the Jardiance commercial, right? With that larger than life lady who does costume changes, and it's almost like she's making a commercial within the commercial. Her name's Deanna Cologne. I read about her in the Washington Post. I reached out to her almost immediately, and she joined the network almost immediately. She was a semifinalist on America's Got Talent. She was already a guest on our show. She brought in so much energy just speaking to a camera that the joy was pervasive. She could have been in your living room type of thing. I have an African-American duet that has been on stage with Jennifer Hudson and Keith Urban. I've got another guy play with the Monkees, another guy play with Crosby, Stills and Nash and Ricky Nelson. I have a string player and a piano player who's played with the London Philharmonic. The opera singer we had today, it's been at the Red Rocks Amphitheater. I have Jorana Nova, a Native American, does Native American music. She has music in the show Outlander. So we have some real superstars. And then we have regular schmoes like me get on and do our thing. And they're very talented. I got some Vegas entertainers. I got a piano player, has the largest dueling piano company in the US. So he runs a company from New York. He plays at a major club in Times Square in New York every week, 8 times a week. He's making money from all his other piano players around the country. He's amazing. And, you just throw anything at him and he's going to fill up an hour without even blinking. So anyway.
Well, go ahead, Gina.
Yeah, I'm curious about the nuts and bolts a little bit. So it sounds like you facilitate the different performers coming on, and you live stream to wherever the location is, and there's like interactive as far as the musicians talking with the people. Is that
Yeah,
basic?
pretty much. So what's happening is that people, either subscribers, go to our platform, and there's a live stream tab after you sign in. You can enlarge that full screen. Obviously, once you have that, you could do what, beam it into a community, whatever, from an iPad, or if you have a smart TV, whatever. We have an alternate channel that people can share with residents in the room, that they don't have to go through the whole subscription process. It just needs a password, but once they set it up once, that kind of thing. We broadcast to the National Association of Activity Professionals Facebook page, which has several thousand people in it. And these are the people, obviously, what they do in these communities. And then we have a couple alternative platforms. One's called Zesta. It's a tablet solution. So they're using our archive, and another one called Touchtown TV. Their parent company is called Uniguest, and they have digital signage around the country in different bars, restaurants, healthcare facilities. So essentially, we broadcast to them as well. They don't have a chat because of the way the setup is, so we have a Google phone number. But what's happening behind the scenes is I'm monitoring all that, and I also have a substitute host. Like Thursday, I'm heading up to Philadelphia. We have a show, but my substitute host is gonna host it. But we have a private chat between artist and host. So once the artist is doing his thing, that's when we send all the messages about, hey, it's Mabel's 82nd birthday. How about a shout out, or whatever it might be? And that's how that works. So it is live. We've had streams go down, but it hasn't happened in a long, long time because, again, that was part of the things I had to work on. But things happen. Electricity goes out, or they're drilling here in Huntersville for God knows what next, and that's put us out for 5 days. I actually had to cancel the show, but for the most part, it's been pretty seamless. And then my artists all get a copy of their show edited without the talking in the front and back, and they could do whatever they want with that.
Wow. So how do you determine? Is there any determination to the kind of music you play, depending on a facility or depending on a patient or whatever?
Well, we don't have the luxury of tailoring. Like if we got a huge client and they wanted their own broadcast channel, and we had the bandwidth and the resources to work with them to actually do specific programming, I could do that. Right now, I'm just looking at our roster and saying, here's where the really talented ones are that I like to get into more often than others. Here's somebody I haven't used yet. And I sort of just pick and choose. And then I'm always available. I always slot myself because we do have cancellations, and I can move things around easier if I'm in the mix as well. What I'd like to do, so there's a 2.0 and a 3.0 to all this. The 2.0 is I'd love to have a music therapist on board who can work with the community. So I give a weird example, but say in October, we're doing, all the artists are going to do something about Halloween. Well, then she could work with them to say, well, what's the best mix of how you all approach that? And then what can we issue as guidelines to the people and facilities and that are watching that can help, make this even more meaningful? I mean, let's face it, they're getting a great value for what they're getting and what they're paying. But how can we even enhance that even more? And then 3.0 is that I'd really like to, and I know who to go to do this, but we just haven't had, again, the resources to completely do it, is have an intergenerational component. There's, especially up north where one of the places I used to sing, when they had to build a whole new facility, they built not just the skilled nursing facility, but they built a child care center next to it. And so there's intergenerational interactivity between that center, two centers all the time. And so I'd love to get, youth, I'm a Rotarian, so Rotary Youth, there's 60 clubs just in the Charlotte area that, we can utilize them. And here's the thing. So I have 6 grandkids, but none of them are around here. And so a lot of times, so I grew up with my grandparents, and, you kind of know, you see them age and you know what it is what an older person is. But in today's day and age, not everybody knows what older people are. I was actually watching It's a show called It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And, you know, it's been out since 2003. And it's, you know, it's based in South Philadelphia. And the guy who created it, I went to high school with, though he's much younger than me, but he went to the same high school. It's very irreverent. But there was one where the grandfather was in the nursing home and how the granddaughter was like, there's no way. And it was just hysterical when she had to go visit him. But that's because, you know, she was scared of old people. So that's kind of the 2.0 and 3.0 of this is to really make the activities even more meaningful than just having a great artist on, although in and of itself is what I can do right now.
Well, that's amazing. And I just, yeah, as an occupational therapist working in these facilities, I mean, sometimes just music itself, and especially in a group setting, has so much therapeutic value of just being there and getting them interacting with other people, gets them moving, you know, a little bit. They start tapping and, you know, any kind of movement that goes along with it.
Well, just having it, you know, and the thing is, and don't get me on my soapbox a little too much, but up north, they actually pay you, you know, down here, I found they would rather figure out a way to not have to pay you or get a volunteer. And all I say to that is you get what you pay for. And there are good volunteer entertainers, and bless their heart for doing what they do. But they're also really bad. And so this is the one thing people forget. Just because they transition from a house to an assisted living or wherever it is, that they forget their past life. Like, you know, my wife and I, if that ever got to the States, they'll probably have no idea that we have traveled around the world. I have seen more talented people on Broadway and whatever. We have discerning taste about what we like and what we don't like. You know, my wife even chimes in on some of our shows if she's listening downstairs. She goes, well, that guy wasn't that good, you know, or whatever. So, you know, we have to give, you know, we have to realize that these people have musical tastes, and you can't just shove things that you want to do because you think it's cool if you don't realize where their perspective is coming from and give them the credit of discernment and having class and taste.
And, you know, there's lots of people that are musicians themselves, either professional or they did it, you know, and are really, or classically trained, or, you know,
Oh, yeah.
those people are out there, and right, and they're going to really want some quality, you know, music. And yeah, I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and I wish any place I'd worked had used, but I hadn't heard of your company.
Well,
How long have you been in business with your company?
so we've been incubating it for 3 years. We did a sort of a pilot group of programs in the spring, but we went full force in September, and we have programming through May because I'm pretty upfront with people. I bootstrapped this. Everything I'm doing, I paid for, and we need subscribers. I'm not shy about this anymore. We need subscribers, whether they're individuals or organizations, because that's paying for my artists, and it's the only way we're going to be able to grow, to get music therapists and to get marketing help and sales help. So if you're in and out of these communities, you know, I'd be glad, more than happy to give you some literature around that I carry in my car all the time. So, you know, when Don and I wind up at these meetings, we all have our arsenal of stuff we bring in with us, right? So, and I have that as well. Plus, you know, there's a whole, you know, the website itself is pretty explanatory. But yeah, so yeah, 3 years, but really the full programming has just started in September.
Okay. Yeah, because yeah, there's definitely a need for it. And like you said, when, you know, whether it's COVID restrictions or bad weather, something that you can rely on, that it's there. And like you said, it sounds like it costs less than bringing in a paid entertainer, you know, for the facilities. They always like to see things that are less costly to them.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
gives the caregiver a break too, you know,
I
that
like what you
hour
said
or
about
whatever.
that. Yeah, 'cause um,
well, the thing is, Don, we've been in meetings where, you know, I'll have people who go into some of those home care people and others, the transition tamers and move managers, and they'll go into these communities, and these are well-known brands, right? And they'll go in, and these folks are just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. And yeah, one of the things I did change a little bit about my messaging is that yes, we are not we're not meant to replace live entertainers, but live entertainers cancel. You cancel them. COVID is real. it's still going through these places. And so that impacts everything. Connie, the executive director for the Institute for Music and Neurologic Function, said, change of shift. A lot of times residents get ignored because people are doing their notes and things like that. Weekends and nights, usually nothing. And so that's why we rebroadcast the programs. All you need is a volunteer to figure out how to get that on the TV, and you got something, that you can watch, or just pull it up for the archive anytime you want to make it a scheduled event, so to speak. So yeah, there are great value points for communities to use this to supplement and complement, and for what it costs versus some other solutions out there that are not only very costly, but have licenses requirements that only permit you to use it with a certain amount of people at a certain amount of time and all that. And maybe one day I'll be that discerning, but right now it's like we have good music, we have good entertainers, and we have other non-music, but 90% of it's music. I'll just tell you about one non-music program we did a few months ago. It was a woman, Lori Grinker, professional photographer. She's been in war zones and all kinds of stuff. But when she started out, she was given an assignment. And, she's a young girl. She's 20. And this was to go follow local boxers. The boxer she got hooked up with was Mike Tyson. And he was in a foster home. And she basically has chronicled his life from that foster home to the big, Vegas and, everything he's won. So she did a whole program on his life in pictures and all the backstory. I mean, that was pretty fascinating stuff. And I have another woman, Gloria Hoffner. She's very popular in with activity directors. She does something called Science for Seniors. So she'll just go and do these experiments, and kind of, she does them live, but she'll come on the air and do them as well. She's very entertaining. So anyway.
Yeah, that was actually my next question, was that are there other, I didn't know if you thought about like comedians or artists or, so
I have a couple.
Sounds like that could be a 4.0 kind of place,
Yeah, I have a couple, but there's also something, and this gets back to some of the mentoring I've had, is stay in a lane. And I think the lane I have is the music lane. I'm not jettisoning the people I already have on the roster. Like, we have a person that's coming on in 24 that's going to do a dance program. I do have one fitness expert. I have one chef, but my emphasis isn't on that because I continue. So my good artists tend to attract other really good artists, right? And so I'm leaning toward that. I'm actually leaning toward one of those artists getting me an actual superstar, like a Lionel Richie, to actually, come on. And I think we could do that, given what we're doing, giving the mission, giving the artists we already have on there, giving the archive of shows we've already done. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, one thing I love about what you're saying is I know most facilities, if they have an event or whatever, everyone comes to one area, but there's lots of people who are bedbound or don't like to leave their room. And it sounds like this can be streamed right into their room via the TV or, another a source of media. But I love that about that because
Well, if they have an in-house TV channel, which a lot of people do, they could just send it out to that. That's one way. But more and more, I mean, what happened, I think, and older folks, we probably don't give them credit either for being savvy, a little more savvy than we think they are around technology. I mean, I joked that my mother, she passed at 94 in 2016, but before that, she was on Facebook. She didn't participate a whole lot, but she darn knew how to follow me around. And so if I was traveling somewhere, this is a classic story, actually. Maybe I should have started with this one, but we were in New Orleans for a friend, our nephew's actually graduation, and it was him and his now wife, and she was graduating. He was getting his graduate degree. So we had a private dinner her father arranged in a beautiful restaurant. And what you do, you take pictures of your meal and you put them on Facebook or whatever. Well, my mother took it as a personal affront to her because of the food that she was eating in her community, which will go nameless. And, and she's an Italian woman that had all her marbles. She had health ailments, but she had all her faculties, and she could tell you where to go in so many words. And she was taking me to task of putting it in her face that I was eating all this good food while she was eating this other stuff. So bottom line is at 94, she knew how to navigate Facebook. So yes, you can easily give a link to somebody if they know how to get on a web page and put in a simple password. That's they can watch it and then they can actually participate in it as well.
Sure. And as us younger people are aging, they're going to become more savvy with being
Thank
able
you
to
for the
navigate.
younger part. I like that. That makes
Navigate.
me feel better for us younger people. I can
Um,
still hold on to that for a while, you know.
Yeah.
Um, well, Anthony, we could probably go on for quite a long time with this, but I think we probably need to kind of wrap it down some. And
Yep.
I wanted to open it up to let you put out how people can find out more about you. And then if you have any kind of specials or any kind of intros that you want to put out there, this is the time to do it.
Sure. Well, the website is Sage, SAGE Stream, STREAM.live. So that's there's a story behind that too, but sagestream.live. I do have an organizational coupon code that we've been using that gets the organization 25% off. So how we sell it is individual monthly, individual yearly, organizational monthly, organizational yearly. If you buy the organizational yearly and you use a particular coupon code that we have, you get another 25% off, which brings it to way less than what one entertainer is going to come in and do. I have a coupon code for, I think the code is caregiver, Caregiver. So if a individual wanted to gift this to somebody, they get 10% off the individual yearly, which, that's $16 times 12, which is 190, 10% off that. So you save another $20. So, essentially for $170 a year, and I'm trying to get people interested to gift this to somebody. Instead of watching Fox and MSNBC all day and having it droning on in the background, tune in and be surprised. And that's the other thing is what I like about what we're doing is you really don't know these artists, but you could be surprised by discovering new people that you never would have known before. So really sagestream.live. We have a couple different coupons. You could send me a note from Sagestream on our contact form. You could join a newsletter there as well, and stay up to date with what we're doing and any specials we're running. I have one other site. It's called the agingexperience.com, and I have a products page for that where you can actually get my CDs if you're still using them. And we also have a caregiver support program. It's a 30-day video support program, which is very interesting. It's what I call a moment of Zen. They're 3-minute videos. You get one every day for 30 days. It's a message from me around a specific topic of caregiving. Sort of the same way I do my keynote speeches. You get a story, a little bit of a snippet of a song and a lesson. And that again can be gifted as well. That's the agingexperience.com under products. So that's kind of the two things I'm offering right now that I believe can help caregivers as well as communities.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that you're offering it to individuals as well. Because my mom's 80 and she's home when my dad gets out of the hospital and rehab and caring for my dad, and she would enjoy it just as much as he would. And it's a great thing you can bring, especially people who can't get out much and do things.
Yep, absolutely. A gift any time of the year.
Yeah.
Well, and with this is the holiday season, so Anthony, thank you so much for being part of this and the great stuff you got going here. I think this is a wonderful thing you're doing, and I'm gonna try to help you as much as I can to get it out there and get somebody going on it. But
Yeah,
thank you for being part of this.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm certainly going to check it out more because it's right in line with, not only my professional side working as an OT, but the things Don and I are doing. I just think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and bless you for what the two of you are doing as well, because you're really filling a niche that has really is not being filled out there. That's so I applaud you for that.
Well, thank you.
You
So
can find
that's
all
our
this
podcast. Yeah. Go
find
ahead,
all
Gina.
this information on the site and links to this podcast for things that Anthony shared. When we're not together in the same space, Don and I don't quite have the
We
same
don't have
rhythm.
the facial cues that tell us, don't do that now, stop. Uh, anyway, you can find out more information about us at focushealthyfamily.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and we'd love your comments. If you've enjoyed this, please spread it around, share it with anybody you might think that could use what Anthony's doing or that wants more information about this topic. So that's our podcast for today. And remember, how you speak to your kids today shapes their future and yours.